And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, there's a lot of great video games, and if you're like me and I grew up in the 80s and I was there during the revolution, the arcade revolution, and there were many games people like Pac-Man and Pitfall and Centipede. And one of the games that came out was the space shooter, the scroller, where your ship went up, enemy ships came down and fired at you. From Galaga, there's so many. And I was never very good at these games, but they were fun to play because you got upgrades and got better weapons and got to shoot things. Well, we now have a board game that uses that theme, the Battle at Kembles Cascade. This is straight out of those games. It uses those graphics, although I think they're closer to 16-bit graphics rather than 8-bit graphics. And yes, I know I ran against 8-bit graphics, but in this case, I think they work because they fit to the theme of this game very well. What you are is you have a little spaceship. You are a hero. You're going through and shooting the bad guys, although you can also shoot each other. Let me show you a little bit of how it works. Okay, the first thing we want to look at is the board. And in any kind of game like this, you need scrolling to happen. So players are going to be moving on the board, and they're going to be flying around, and they're going to be shooting little spaceships on the board. And whenever you blow something up, you cover it with a card so that it shows that, now that spot is empty space. But after every turn, what's going to happen is the bottom row is basically going to empty out. So you'll take all the cards out of the bottom row, and that row will move to the top. And you'll notice the row is made up of two plastic pieces that are kind of like the old racetrack pieces. And then you'll draw from a deck, and you'll put different cards in a row at the top. And these cards have different various things that they'll do. Now, this is not a perfectly done setup. For a setup, you're going to be building a deck of cards, and you're going to be building them from different piles. And I put different cards, and they're in a certain order, but I put different ones out here just so you can see a variety of the things that you'll face. There's even more cards like walls that you can put in so that, the walls come in on the side, and you have to, make sure you don't hit the wall. Now, players have their own player board, and that's over here. Each player is going to have a specific player board for their person. This is Captain Salmond Zolt, and you have Captain Brock Harlock, and Captain Gordon Bomber, Captain Brix Berkswicks, and Captain Stringfeather Hawk. Now, on your board, you're going to start with one technology. This is a rotary cage. You'll place it here, and you'll put a cube on it, and this cube shows which direction you can shoot it. You're also going to start with 0 threat and with 5 energy. You put these big cubes on there to show them. You will have a pile of other cubes that you'll be able to use over the course of the game. They're usually just to mark things. Each player is also going to start with a mission. In this one, I'm a miner. I have to fire on an asteroid 3 times. Each time I fire on an asteroid, I'll put a cube on here. Once I finish it up, I get 3 glory. Glory is measured up here. Each player is going to have a cube, and as the game progresses, you will get glory through different ways, and you'll mark it up here. There's also achievements that players can get if you accomplish an achievement. For example, here you gain threat from the added top row. You get an achievement. Or here you receive glory from an alien structure. Different ways, and you will get these glory points added to your total, and then more achievements will be pulled out. Now, on a player's turn, they're going to be using energy to move around the board. When a player first comes on the board, they're going to come on at the bottom of the board, and then they're going to fly around. Now, on your turn, you have 1 move and 1 shoot that you can do. So when you come on, you can move and then shoot, and then you can make an additional move or shoot, not both, but you have to pay 1 energy. And you can make another one, this is called overcharging, another additional move or shoot, but that one costs 2 energy. So those are optional, but you always get one free move and shoot. When you shoot, you'll use your weapon. Everyone has a basic gun turret that does 1 damage. So let's say I'm here and I decide to shoot straight. If I decide to change the direction I'm shooting in, then I'm going to have to pay an energy to move the cube on my rotary cage. But let's say I shoot straight. This guy here has 1 damage, so I blow him up. He gives me some money. Now the money in this game is bolognium, which cracks me up every time I say it. And sometimes they don't give you anything. You can see here that you can shoot this asteroid here for no reason at all, but it takes 2 to destroy it. And this mine here takes 1 to destroy. So there's different things that are going to show up on the board that you can go around and shoot. You can also sometimes do other things on the board. For example, here you can fly into that to get a victory point. You're like flying through an alien maze. Here you can fly through it, but it costs an extra movement to do. If you go here, you get a power-up card. Power-up cards give you all sorts of special abilities that you're able to use as the game goes by. There's wormholes. You can go from one wormhole to another wormhole. There's big ships that you can shoot half the ship, but the other half is still coming down at you. So there's all sorts of things that are going on. There's a black hole. Don't fly into that because then you blow up. At the end of your turn, you need to determine your threat. That's basically all the enemy ships that are shooting at you. You're going to look at all the spots around you. So let's say the purple ship ended its turn here. Well, this ship has 1 threat on it. So the purple ship has 1 threat. If there's any ships that are shooting at you, like this one here shooting straight forward, that would also cause a threat. And there's some ships, like this big one here, he has a giant threat token there. He does a threat to everyone on the board. So in this instance, purple would take 2 threat. Now, when I take 2 threat, sorry, yellow, we're going to give you purple's threat for now. I move it up. On my next turn, every time I do any movement at all, I reduce my threat. But once that's done, I have to reduce my threat to 0 every turn. And every time I do that, I have to spend energy. And if your energy ever gets to 0, your ship will blow up. Now, your ship blowing up is not the end of the world. It does give everybody else 2 points. So you got to be careful. And if someone else ever shoots you, other players can shoot you. They put a token here, and if you blow up, they get an additional point for having helped your demise. Anyhow, so when you blow up, you're trying not to blow up. One of the ways to not blow up is to power down on your turn. You do that instead of moving and shooting. That gives, let's say you're hit 2 energy, that gives you plus 2 energy, and then you can buy upgrades. Now this is exciting. You have spots for upgrades here in your ship. You can upgrade your rotary cage for 3 bolognium to rotary cage 2, which lets you just shoot in any direction for any cost. But wait, there's more. You can add an engine, which gives you free movement, or upgrade that to engine 2 to give you 2 free movement. You have a shield, which lets you reduce your threat by 1 when resolving it. Or you can upgrade that to shield 2, which lets you do it by 2. Or a regenerator, which lets your maximum energy go up to 6 instead of 5. And when you recharge, you get 3 energy. Or here, your second overcharge now only costs 1, and your max energy goes up to 7. But who cares about all this stuff? We want weapons. Well, you've been heard. You have the flamethrower, which is a cheap weapon, but can do 2 damage to stuff, but you have to be right next to it. However, you can upgrade that to a 3 damage or even a 4 damage type thing. You have a missile which does splash damage, hits something for 2 damage and then hits everything next to that for 1 damage, and that can be upgraded all the way to doing 3 damage and 2 in all directions. You have the gamma, which shoots everything in a straight line for 1 damage, and that can be upgraded to shooting everything in a straight line for 3 damage. Also notice if you upgrade to the top thing, these are worth a glory. And then you have lasers, which just simply give you multiple shots in your turn. So when you upgrade that all the way, you get 4 shots of 1 each. Now, because of the scrolling action of this board, each turn you dump the cards and you move it up to the top of the board, and all the ships that are there on those spots are scroll pushed. They're forced forward, which will sometimes push you into asteroids, which will cause damage, or push you into mines or different things, or push you into spaceships. So there's this constant moving forward, everybody moves. The way you determine how players move each round is players are going to play, they're going to have 2 of these cards and they'll play them. The highest card goes first, and sometimes these cards will give or take away something. Usually not though, but sometimes they give you an extra movement that turn or something like that. Everyone will draw an extra one and you have 2 to pick from. You're going to go through the deck of cards until suddenly you will draw one of the 4 monster cards. Each turn there's going to be a different monster card, a boss card. When the boss card comes, we're going to take a look at the row and the boss. You look for his specific deck of cards and it brings out an entire section of cards. So let me see if I can get these right here. This is the boss as he comes out, and you'll notice he has many different parts. Some parts of him are immune to different types of weapons, like this one here. The flamethrower missile don't work against it. Some of the parts that when you blow them up, you flip the card over and it does something different, has different things. But this is not it, folks. That's just the first line of this particular boss. This boss has 2 lines, so when he comes in, he is going to really hurt you. You can see these outside things are doing threat to everybody. If you're anywhere close to him, he's doing tons of threat, and he'll keep coming and coming and coming, and you'll play until you get through the last line. When you're force pushed off that, then the game will end, and whoever scored the most glory through various ways is the winner of the game. But man, isn't that a cool looking boss? Does this game feel like one of those space shoot-ups? Why, yes it does, although you don't need the lightning quick reflexes that apparently I never had. And when that boss shows up, I showed you one of them. There's 3 more, and I didn't want to show them to you because I think it's fun when you play the game to see the boss show up and how it works out. And each boss is a little bit different. You hit him and he turns over. I don't know, it feels like a boss. And this is an entertaining game to play. I like the power-ups, getting the power-ups. I love to say Balonium many, many times. Flying around, you have a lot of cool actions that you can do, and just deciding it, you fly through, avoid other players, avoid the things. Very good game. Now, there are a few small problems I have with the game. I don't care so much about these plastic things. They're cheap, but they work. It would have been nice if they had been 1 piece, but they had to be 2 because it would fit inside the box. I'm more concerned with the quality of the cards. Many of the cards have pointed corners, which really get beat up easily. And the card quality itself isn't the highest in the world. I wish that I'm going to have to sleeve this game because I don't want these cards getting beat up more than they already are. Some of the cards are better quality, but for the most of them, I don't know. They didn't put a lot of effort into the card quality. Everything else, from the little cubes to the Balonium to the art, I like quite a bit. Gameplay itself is very fun, but I need to warn you about something. There's PvP in this game, player versus player. You can shoot the other player's ships, and that's entertaining. Ha, I shot you, ha, I shot you. If one player decides to just basically go out and go after other players the whole time, it can be annoying. It can kind of drag the game down because that's actually a pretty good strategy to go after other players. But if other players were kind of trying to fly through and shoot the ships in the game, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, come on, stop it. It can almost feel like it's anti the theme of the game. Sure, like, oh, I'm sorry, my missile hit you. That's one thing, especially if, but it's another thing to just go around and constantly be shooting other people. So I suppose you could play without the player versus player, or I would suggest allowing someone to shoot someone else only once per turn instead of basically using all their 2 extra actions to shoot other players each time. Because if you can kill the other players every time they go off the board, they come back on, you shoot them again, pretty soon everybody wants to punch the player who's shooting folks. But take that aside. Flying through and shooting the bad guys, I love that. This game has a very strong feel. It really brings back those 80 arcade games or 90s arcade games. Exciting. I don't think this game is for everybody. There's certainly a little bit of fiddliness sometimes of moving this stuff around, but oh man, the exploration, not sure what's going to show up next on the screen, getting ready to shoot, looking at the ships, deciding what's the best target or the easiest target, whichever one you might want. Sometimes when a card comes, everybody gets Balonium, hooray. How much threat can you handle before you blow up? Very entertaining and interesting game, and one thing I want to really give this credit for, it's unique. There's no other board game like this on the market, and I think that's pretty cool. So that's the Battle at Kembles Cascade. Certainly one that I recommend, but I recommend everybody give it a try. Even if you think you might not like it, give it a try because it's very interesting and different than games out there. I like it quite a bit. Think I'll be adding this one to my collection just because of how unique it is, because I love the theme of it. That's the Battle at Kembles Cascade.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?